Welcome to Reel Filmmaking. My name is Corey, and today I'm going to show you how to get started shooting with your Canon EOS M, Magic Lantern, and Crop Mood. Now, Crop Mood is the newest build of Magic Lantern that's come out, and it basically takes everything you love about shooting with the Canon EOS M and Magic Lantern, and it just like cranks it up a notch. If you're new to the channel, you can check out some of my other videos where I talk about the Canon EOS M and Magic Lantern more in depth. Basically, this software unlocks your camera's hidden potential and allows you to shoot raw video, like 14-bit depth, and get beautiful images with it. So if you're interested, you can check out those videos, but let's jump into what you need to get your camera set up and shooting. So what do you need to get Magic Lantern set up? Well, obviously you need the Canon EOS M. I might have a couple of them. It's become a bad habit now. Besides the camera, you need memory cards to run Magic Lantern. I use the SanDisk Extreme Pro cards. They're very reliable. They have really good write speeds. I've never had an issue using Magic Lantern with these cards, so I highly recommend those. And the other big thing is you need to make sure that your Canon EOS M is running firmware 2.02. Most of the solid builds of Magic Lantern are built upon this firmware, including Crop Mood, so you just want to make sure your camera has that. I'll have a link down in the description where you can find that firmware, and you can use the Canon EOS utility to install that and get that on your camera so you can be ready to go. So I'm on the Magic Lantern forum. This is where you can find the latest builds of Magic Lantern for different cameras, including Crop Mood. We've got right here. So when you click on that, you go here. I will have these linked in the description for you. But Bilal has got his most up-to-date builds of Magic Lantern. So you're just going to want to click on that, download that. And then I've got those in a window here. So when you download it, you will get this file like this. You can just extract it, and then you will get these three files right here. So then I've got my clean SD card that's been all formatted, ready to go. So all you have to do is copy these three like this and paste them right there. You are good to go. Once you've got your SD card loaded into your camera, you're going to want to make sure it's in the photo mode and navigate over to this menu tab here where you can see the firmware. So we're going to want to go to the firmware, and that's how we install Magic Lantern. So hit update, hit OK, and now we just wait for the magic to happen. You'll see Magic Lantern boot up, and it'll say, please restart your camera. So restart your camera, turn it back on, and we've got Tears of the Kingdom. Well, I've got a lot of Tears of the Kingdom on my mind right now, but we have Magic Lantern. So this is what the interface of Magic Lantern looks like. There's a lot of options here. If you've never used Magic Lantern before, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but I'm going to walk you through where you need to go. So first, let's navigate over to the Modules tab. And the Modules controls all the different things within Magic Lantern to enable like raw video, overclocking your SD card, if you want to use dual ISO. There's lots of different things. So you're going to want to come over to the Modules tab, and we're going to go and enable Crop Mood, the crop recording. So that's how we get Crop Mood. Enable MLV Light for raw video, MLV Play so we can play back the clips. You're going to want MLV Sound, so that way your files will have sound to them. And then we're going to also enable SD overclock. And whenever you enable a module, you have to restart your camera before the module will take effect. So let's turn off our camera, turn back on our camera. All right, we're back. Now let's get into the menu. So press and hold the trash can button, and that will take you into the menu. As you can see, all these modules have been loaded. So the next thing that we're gonna wanna go do is go over to the debug menu, and we're gonna want to adjust the settings for the SD overclock. So this will allow your SD card to get the best performance reading and writing raw video files. So I put it on 240 megahertz. Next, we're gonna go over to the movie tab, and we're gonna want to enable raw video and the crop mood. So here we are, we're at crop mood. And so as you open up crop mood, you see you have the different options here. You've got the 1:1 crop modes, you've got the 1:3 crop modes, and you've got the 3:3 crop modes. If you are a longtime user of Magic Lantern, you might be confused, wondering like where are the long list of presets, like 2.5K, 2.8K, 1080p, all that stuff. All of those modes are now in these different options here in the crop mode. So first off, you've got the one-to-one crop modes, which are the center crop modes that crop in on the sensor. There's no pixel binning or skipping in these modes, and so these are the modes like 2.5K, 2.8K, 3K. And because these modes have such an extensive crop, the best way to take advantage of them is to use really wide angle lenses, or to adapt things like C-mount lenses, where normally those lenses would have vignetting, but because you have such a huge crop, it compensates for that, and you can get some really nice images out of this. The next modes are the 1x3 modes, and these are also known in past Magic Lantern builds as the anamorphic mode, so the 5K FRTP mode. And essentially what these modes do is they read all of the vertical pixels, they incorporate pixel binning, and this helps to reduce aliasing and moire. Historically, the 1080p mode with Magic Lantern, there'd just be a lot of moire and aliasing, particularly in patterns on buildings and clothing and stuff like that. And so shooting in this anamorphic mode and then de-squeezing the footage in post really helps to smooth that out, and it's always been my favorite mode to shoot in. And lastly, we have the 3x3 modes, which includes the 1080p mode and the high frame rate modes. In previous builds of Magic Lantern, 1080p mode has always been the most solid, the most stable, and I've used it a lot and gotten great results. There's things like I mentioned, you have to compensate for aliasing and moire, so shoot wide open, shoot with filters. And then you also have the experimental high frame rate mode, where some people have gotten like 48 frames per second, some people getting close to 60 frames per second, particularly with crop mode. And I haven't done a ton of testing with that, and I haven't shot with 1080p a ton with the crop mode, because like I said, I think the 1x3 modes are the best way to shoot now. So now we're gonna jump into one of these 1x3 modes, get it all set up so you can start shooting. So whenever you get into a new preset, you always want to hit the menu button, cycle through the menu button, come back to this menu, and that just makes sure the resolution is correct to the preset you're shooting with. It just needs to refresh. So we go back in, and you can see the resolution is set to the correct resolution for this 4.5K. So I'm going to click the 4.5K, and here you can scroll through the presets. Got 4.2K, Ultra HD, but let's go back to the 4.5K. And if you adjust the aspect ratio here, actually to 235:1, you will see that it jumps to 5.2K, which is a very popular setting that you've seen probably a lot over YouTube, people shooting in crop mode in this, in the 5.2K, and this mode is very stable. It gets some really good results. As I've been testing it, depending on what I'm doing, I will adjust the bit depth sometime, keep it at 14, sometimes I'll drop it down to 10-bit if I'm shooting longer scenes, but just kind of for every day when I'm just doing clips, I'll keep it at 14-bit. Alright, so we've got all of our settings good to go there. Before we film something, I want to show you a couple other tweaks that I like to set up with my Magic Lantern. So go over to display, click the level digit peaking. I like to turn this to slightly sharper. It just helps you get better focus when you're trying to manually focus. Next, go back over to the movie tab, find raw video, hit the play button, and you're going to want to go and enable kill global draw. So global draw is all the information that you see on the screen, like the waveform, all the different stuff like that, the frame rate, all those different things. And so when you enable kill global draw, it turns all that stuff off while you are filming, so the camera can maximize all the read and write speeds for the SD card. Alright, so let's film some Tears of the Kingdom. So it starts off red, we're in the 5.2K mode, 14-bit, but then we level out to orange, and that's really good. So something that I have found when shooting with crop mode, you need to be very careful about the exposure. You don't want anything clipping in your image, even if it's just like a slight window or something, because the camera is very sensitive to light in the crop mode, and that will affect your record time. So make sure everything is properly exposed. Alright, and some last customization things I like to have with my Magic Lantern. Let's go over to preferences and go to the customize buttons option. This lets you set up some of the extra buttons on your EOS M to your liking. So I like to have my set button actually function as my 10 times zoom button. So this can be helpful when I'm trying to make sure everything is really in focus. So I'll have that. I like to use my info button. I set that to false color, but false color is really helpful, particularly if I'm shooting, a lot of like human subjects. I'm trying to expose the skin correctly. I like to have my up and down arrows set to ISO so I can easily switch that, and I use my left and right arrows to control the aperture if I'm using an electronic lens. So here we are. We can just hit the ISO button, bump that down, ISO, good to go. Next, we'll hit the set button. You'll see we'll zoom in so I can get razor sharp focus on those floating islands to make sure link is in focus. And we're good to go for recording. Well, there you go. That's everything you need to know to get you up and running shooting with your Canon EOS and in crop mood. Like I said, I've loved shooting with crop mood. I just feel like it just unlocks another level of the camera. It's just so functional, it's so usable now. I just always want to just pick up my EOS M and go shoot with it. I have other cameras, but I keep going back to this one. If you found this video helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Reel Filmmaking for more content coming about cameras like the EOS M, filmmaking, creative process, all that goodness. And until next time, keep making movies and watching movies, and I'll see you on Reel Filmmaking. I think I have a problem, but this red looks so good, doesn't it? There's just something about it. Something about it.